Oh, the boys are back in town.
Let's check if we're live.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Let's bring up the chat just to see, so we can see who's coming on. Dave, wow, you're organised there, mate.
I am pretty organised. Yeah, I've got it all on you, mate. I've got it all on you.
Just say, if you are joining us, do just put a little comment. Do let us know if you are here. Of course, David Clift is here. He's always one of the earliest. Let's have a look. I've always got to do this, Dave. But we need to check we're live. It's kind of weird, actually.
Yeah.
I'm doing the facilitation today, Dave. What's going on?
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. like I said, the prodigal son returns.
Great stuff. Here we go. Oh, Bri is devastated. I was thinking, I can hear my own voice.
And he's got the live on live. That was liveception.
Can't you tell? I'm a little bit rusty that Dave's covered it for the last few weeks, and I come back to destroy the live.
Yeah.
But right, yeah, you may notice we're in a little bit of a different room this time. This one is one of our little spaces in the office. We thought it was very apt because today is all about, Everest Base Camp, the special one, as we call it. And this behind, Dave,
is Newport. Sorry, no, it's not Newport in South Wales. It is it's Namche Bazaar. And me and Andy had great fun when this first arrived, figuring out all the places that we've stayed.
Yeah, we did.
Those of you that have been here before, see, that's the archway up to the Sherpa Museum.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so you go through there, and then it's just at the top of those trees.
Yeah.
And the Tenzing Memorial Statue.
Yeah.
And an awesome view of Everest, which is over there somewhere. It's not on this map.
It's weird, Dave. As you went over there, because of the depth there, you look really small.
Did I?
Yeah, you did, mate.
I'll hang back there then if I look small.
No, it's great to be back. I mean, this is actually my first Tuesday tune-in probably almost a month.
Yeah.
We've had some great people on. Like, listen to last week. John Adams was on, one of our Ever trackers. Sorry, the Great Bold Yeti.
The Great Bold Yeti, yeah.
Was here chatting about fitness and the challenges that he faced. Because he's been to base camp a couple of times.
Yeah.
As well as that, we had Rosie and I believe Fee was on as well.
Yeah,
the week before. So yeah, it's good for you guys to kind of get to know the rest of the team. We'll try over the next few months to get as many people on as we can from the Evertrek team. But we hope that kind of was useful to everyone. Now, if this is the first Tuesday tune-in that you've been on, welcome. I can see there's quite a lot of people on this live today, quite a lot of newbies as well. So yeah, if you are newbie, do say a Tuesday tune-in. First timers, you popped your cherry. This is the first one. Great stuff. Welcome. We've been doing this. This is probably almost, I think we're almost at 91.
It's close to 100 episodes now.
It's getting close now.
Yeah, for the new people as well. This is something that we do every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Not just on, Nepal, but all subjects to do a high altitude trekking and the trips we run. I'm pretty sure we're going to get into it pretty thick today because we've had loads of questions.
A lot of questions.
Yeah. And it's interesting that every so often we have a really popular live, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. Is there anything different about today that's going to be happening that doesn't normally happen?
Well, if you unless you've been in Antarctica, maybe Antarctica you still get 4G, who knows. You could have been on the way to Everest, but yeah, we have over the last sort of 4 weeks done one of our competitions. We've run them over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, always very popular. And obviously we went back to our roots, which is one of our first trips, our first trip, which was Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do another, competition around that. And, if you've entered, well done. And thanks for, sharing it. We, a lot of like positivity around it. We like anything, we always get sort of, kickback from certain things, and certain people not don't like people going to certain parts of the world. And we get that. But look, if you're here and you're listening, and you're an adventurer, a traveler, a tracker like me and Dave, like the rest of the team, like the rest of our Ever trackers and our community, then you're in the right place. And that's what we thought we wanted to do. We wanted to do another trip to Everest Base Camp, for 2 people. So for the winner and then someone of their choice.
Yep.
And yeah, it's been great. The positivity has been amazing. Also as well, I've been seeing it all over social media, getting Dave, it went a bit floppy there, mate.
That's all right, mate. Yeah.
I wasn't talking about Dave. I was talking about the mic.
Yeah, that's all right. And I'll sort the tech out. You sort the tech out. There we go. There we go. Tightened it up there, mate.
Here we go. Great stuff. And yeah, so it's been great to see everyone get involved, and obviously sharing that. And it's been great. We've reached a lot of people, and it's always nice to kind of not educate, because people know Everest. Everest has been there obviously for a very, very long time,
providing great double glazing.
It has, but no, it's obviously something that's very popular. And we want to give people an opportunity to kind of learn about it a bit more, and what it entails, how hard it is, whether it's right for them. Because these sort of treks that we run, and we've been running now for the last almost 6 years, they're not easy. Lots of trekkers have, we've kind of interviewed our trekkers, get some feedback. A lot of it, like, it's not a holiday, may appear that way, but it's actually a challenge. It's hard, and if you're up for a challenge, you're in the right place. And Dave, it's been great, isn't it? I've literally walked back into the office today, and everyone's like, "Yeah, Andy, how's it going?" Got a little message on the wall, which was quite nice, in the little office. But yeah, Dave. So today, then, Everest. Where should we start?
Yeah, I mean,
we've got thousands of questions we got.
I know. Yeah, I mean, also welcome. I'm seeing so many new noobs on here as well.
Yeah.
I say noobs. New to the
Tuesday
tuning newbies. But yeah, awesome. Hopefully you'll continue to tune in every Tuesday, like I said, because we do these topics every single week without fail. And Everest Base Camp for us is really where it all started.
Yeah.
It's the first high altitude trip that Andy went on. It's the first high altitude trip that I went on. There's a little bit of history there about how myself and Andy ended up sort of sat here talking about this right now. And it's really changed. It's changed my life. It's changed Andy's life, and now it's changed so many other people's lives. And we realize the importance of these trips. As Andy said, they're not for everyone, and some people may have an opinion on whether it's the right type of trip or not. But you know what? For a huge amount of people, it is. And personally, I can say that these trips are far more valuable to me as a person than perhaps going for a 2-week beach holiday, because I come back and I've tested myself. I've learned so much about different cultures, different histories, and I've learned a lot about myself, what I'm capable of, what I'm perhaps not capable of, and what I can improve upon. And honestly, these trips do change your entire outlook.
Yeah,
the amount of customers that have come back who I've been fortunate to actually speak to that say that Nepal's really got under my skin, and I can't stop thinking about the place, because there is a certain magic about Nepal, that really does sort of get hold of you, doesn't let go, and it's why we keep going back and back and back and back. Out of all the trips we do, I've done Everest Base Camp the most, and that's not because it's the easiest. It's because it's the one that I seem to get the most out of. It
draws you back in, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think Nepal's very much like that. I mean, we do a lot of trips now. I mean, just to kind of give you a brief, especially for all the first timers here today. And I can see we got a lot of regulars on as well, so they might have heard this. It might sound like a bit of a broken record, but yeah, we started off basically back in 2016. It was just myself, and came back from Everest Base Camp with kind of an idea, really, and that was to kind of help people do what I did, which is get to Everest Base Camp, and that's where the name come from. We're Evertrek, and that's where we really started. But then over the last kind of 3, 4, 5 years, especially over the last maybe 2.5 years, we really kind of scaled up our trips, because we had a lot of Evertrekkers coming back from doing Everest Base Camp, from going to Nepal, saying, okay, right, awesome, really enjoyed that. Where's next? And that's why we do trips to Kilimanjaro, we do Morocco, we got a lot of trips in South America. We got other areas of the world we're actually building. I've been off last few weeks, and part of that was if you're friends with me on Facebook or things, you'll see that I'm in certain parts of the world that we're trying to open up some new trips. So, as well as having a holiday as well, life's all about balance. So we've sort of come all this way, really. And, Dave, I mean, what were you? You're customer one. Well, you've called it customer zero.
Customer zero, mate. Yeah, customer zero. That's where it
which is nuts, really, thinking about it. Dave was Evertrek's first ever customer.
Yeah.
And now, is a huge part of our company, and is our head of operations. But is a lot more than that. His deep rooted care about the business is amazing, really. So I'll get the tissues out,
mate. It's good to have you back, mate. But no, and like I said, this is one of the reasons why I think we have stuck to it.
Yeah.
And stuck to it at the beginning when there was anybody that started a business, or anyone that's worked in a new business will know that you don't just open the shutters, take the sign off the door, and hundreds of thousands of customers come your way. You know, it's a lot of hard work at the beginning. So, but having the passion for it really does make sure that you stay the course. But where does that passion come from? It wasn't one day we woke up and decided we love Nepal. It was almost an accident of circumstances. Andy loved adventure, and so did I. We worked together. I mean, this is a little bit of the history that
days.
Yeah, a lot of the new guys perhaps won't know the story about how.
Just checking this out.
About how we kind of hooked up. Me and Andy used to work together for a bank, believe it or not, way back when.
Back in those days, Dave. Wow.
I know. And then we kind of both went and got different jobs. And on Facebook one day, I saw that Andy had posted that he'd been to Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that all the time I spent working with him that we never discussed that, because I had a mutual desire to do it as well. So I dropped Andy a little message and I said, when you come back, let's have a chat. And all I was really hoping for was, you know, the questions that you guys ask. How fit were you, mate? How fit do I have to be? Do you reckon I can do it? What happens if I go too slow? What boots do I need? Do I need crampons? You know, all of that, stuff, which is why I've got, and all of us have got so much patience and enjoy answering those questions, even if they're the same questions that we get on a regular basis. Exactly. They're not. For you, that's the first time. And for you, you need to know that stuff. And then we have a picture we should have perhaps brought in of the.
Oh, is that in the other room?
The first ever kit list.
It's, so Dave, basically we met in Bill's Cafe in Cardiff, and the nearest thing we had to write down was our receipt from Bill's.
Should I go and get it, and?
Yeah, you can go and get it.
Yeah, I'm going to go and get it. I'm going to go get it. I think it's
I'll,
important for people to see the history.
Whilst Dave has gone to the other room to get this, I don't think any of you might have seen this. You might have seen it on a post or something. But whilst Dave is going to find that, if you do have any questions, because again, Dave had all these questions at the beginning. If you have any questions at all, do post them in the comments, because then we can. We've got Rosie and also Fee as well. They'll be collating the questions, firing them to us. We've already got about 25, 30 questions already. So it's going to be a busy one today, but it's going to be great. And drop your questions in the comments and we can tackle them. But Dave, what have you got for us?
So basically, when we
looks like a pirate man now.
I know. Well, when I went and met Andy after that message, we met in a cafe in Cardiff. We just had a couple of cups of coffee, some food, and we talked about what equipment I needed. And now, if any of you guys have downloaded the guides or anything like that, this is actually the very first one. And so that's my messy handwriting there. And that's the back of a receipt, because it was the only paper we could ask for. And I'll read it out for you. We've got Turkish Airlines, Andy recommended. October Trek to see the Rimdu Festival. Down jacket, Rab. You know, it's all there. But this lived in my wallet. And I used to pull it out when I was in, outdoor shops and have a look at it and kind of tick things off. And then it stayed in my wallet for about three and a half years. Yeah. And one day I was just going through my wallet and I found this and I thought, you know what? I'm going to frame it and give it to Andy for Christmas.
Thanks, man. I love that.
Yeah, you can have it back. Yeah.
Yes!
So this is so that was
brilliant.
That was a gift I got. I just framed it, stuck it on there and gave it to Andy because I thought it's the first ever. It's like an artifact that
It's quite funny because Tina asks, and obviously it's back to front. Sorry, Kim. I know it's because we're mirrored. You got to make sure we're in the right place, right? But yeah, it is mirrored. But yeah, unfortunately, the boots were slightly different this time. They weren't Maindel boot hands. If this is your first live and you haven't heard of those, we are very big fans of Maindel boots, as well as loads of others. We've done a lot of different lives over the last couple of years. Which we started doing these during the very first lockdown. We couldn't go traveling. Wow, crazy days. Lots of people were asked about, okay, what type of boots do I need? What types of socks do I wear? Do you need? And then even if you're Joel, and what is it he said here? What type of undercrackers were discussed? Undercrackers. Love it. I think that was actually, sorry, Joel, Jane. It's usually Joel on here, but that's Jane. And we'll definitely delve deep into that, as Jane says on there. But yeah, anyway, right. I know we're digressing now, but we wanted to kind of preamble what we're about to talk about. And today is all about Everest Base Camp, is all about Nepal, because it does mean so much to us. And obviously it's very relevant at the moment with the competition. So yeah, with Base Camp then, I mean, Okay, Dave, we've had a lot of questions here. We've probably got about 25, 30 now, more coming in. What would you say would be the biggest thing then going to Everest Base Camp? Like, it was on your mind, for instance. What was it? Was it about the fitness maybe, or equipment? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing the biggest single concern that I had was about probably my physical ability and my mental ability to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things wrapped up in that, but ultimately the question is, can I do Everest Base Camp? That's a lot of, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unknowns when you go to high altitude, for instance, high altitude sickness. How's my body going to react? You know, how is the altitude going to affect my fitness? You know, I'm pretty sure I'm fit enough to do it now at sea level, but take the altitude into equation. Do I have to be, you know, and it's very hard to kind of pinpoint a lot of those questions down. But one thing that I realized is that there's only one way to find out for a start.
Yeah.
And that's by going and doing it. By going and doing it, I realized the answer to the question, which is, I think anybody can go to Everest Base Camp. I genuinely believe that. There are some people who can roll off the sofa, not do any training for years and get there.
Yeah.
And certainly that probably makes it a tougher challenge. And then there are really, really fit people that can go out there and, you know, have a more enjoyable time. But I find they need to rein in their sort of competitive nature and make sure you go slow. So anybody can go there, depending on, you know, your physical condition, your mindset. There are different challenges posed by Everest Base Camp. Yeah. But fundamentally, I think that, anybody can go there. But my biggest concern before I went there was, what if I don't make it?
And so having come back then, so you've obviously been there more than once now.
Yeah.
And that was a big question in the beginning. What was your kind of answer to that once you've done it? Like, for instance, what was it that you were like, okay, now I know what it takes to do it?
Yeah.
What would I say to someone else who hadn't
Okay, so specifically what I would recommend. So I think there's two sides to the Everest Base Camp trek. It's not like just going up and down, say, Snowdon, which you can associate with just a physical challenge.
Yeah.
Everest Base Camp takes place over 11 days. So it's continuous trekking, gaining altitude each day. So there's a mental part of it that plays into it as well. So the first thing I would say is, in terms of physical fitness, the fitter you are, the easier it is. Yeah. The healthier you'll feel during the trek and the less exhausted you'll feel. And those people tend to get every single bit of enjoyment out of the trip. Exactly. So I do recommend building some physical fitness. You don't have to be able to run a marathon. I think strength and endurance training is absolutely key. It's not all about cardio. I think doing some squats, the Stairmaster, cycling is one big thing for me. It really does help build endurance in your legs and keeps them going even when they're tired. But the other thing is mindset as well, which I know is one thing Andy was super keen on and impressed upon me when I went there, was, you know, there will be some moments perhaps where you want to turn back. Yeah. You know, where it's tough, where you've woken up with a terrible headache because of altitude and you'll not feel like continuing on that day. But it's about remembering why you started, pushing forward, relying on the help and expertise of your guides to know that it's safe, and searching for that adventure. And I got to be honest, some of the most epic high five moments have been when I've had some struggles, you know? Yeah. When I've made it there and I've done trips that I thought, you know what, that was a lot easier than I actually thought. It's like, oh, okay, that was good. When I've really had to grind for something, you know, and when you get there, it's really worthwhile.
It's Dave, it's great. It's great when you talk about it, and there's so many things that throw through my mind, you know, just flow in. And initially, because it comes down to fitness, you know, is big. It can help, but as Dave said, you know, you don't have to be Superman. You have to be Wonder Woman to trek to Everest Base Camp. The fitter you are, the more enjoyable journey you'll have. Yeah. But it comes down to how much you want it, how much you actually want to do this thing. You know, you could be raising money for charity. We get a lot of Ever trekkers who do that, which is awesome. They could be doing it for maybe personal pride. You know, maybe it's something that it's been on your bucket list for years and it's been there, but you didn't know actually how much you wanted it. And now maybe you've got the time, maybe, you know, the dollars as well. You know, you think, okay, I've got the capacity to do it. And that's for us to kind of help you. And that's what we're here to do, is to kind of help you on that journey, to tell you, yes, it can be done. Age is certainly not a barrier. I've seen a lot of comments here. Yeah. Certain ages coming in. I know a lot of questions around age. We've had people in their 60s. We've had a 74-year-old male, great guy called Alan, who reached Everest Base Camp, and a guy I trekked with you called Dave. Yeah. And, you know, in their early 70s, who've made Everest Base Camp. Now, I'm not going to say it was easy for them, but what I will say is that they did it because they really wanted to go. Yeah. you know, it's not one of those things that you can kind of say, oh yeah, I want to do that, and you know, and then you kind of, you don't take it seriously. You have to take it seriously at high altitude. It's inherently dangerous place, but it's managed danger. We always talk about the difference between unmanaged and managed danger. There's certain things that we do that, you know, a lot of trekking companies do, which, you know, and there's a lot out there. We kind of always go the longest route because acclimatization is key.
Yeah.
So we talk about things like hydration, which is like the number one reason when it comes to hydration, people get altitude issues.
Yeah.
You know, so if you listen to the advice of, right, okay, you drink a certain amount of water a day, you know, we usually go for 3 to 4 liters of water. You listen to your guide around pace. So we don't want you running off. We want you to take your time.
Yeah.
You know, you go with, you know, some people say, oh, what happens if I slow people down? I'm like, great. You're going to be acclimatizing way better than the fast person at the front. John, who was on here last week, he'd be, I don't know if you had a chat about it, but, you know, in the first trip, on the first couple of days, he was nailing it. And we're like, he had headaches and he was suffering. We were like, right, today, John, you're going to go at the back. And then he, you know, he had a far more enjoyable experience because then he acclimatized better.
Yeah.
And it really does come down to those things, you know, these basic things, you know, pace, you know, hydration, listening to your guide. And then what Dave sort of talked about earlier was around mindset. And what I think what he means is, you know, when you're going on these things, instead of thinking like altitude, worrying about all the little things, just remember why you're there. Remember what you're there to do. Remember you're there to enjoy yourself as much as you can. Obviously, you know, if it's like anything. If you think about something all the time so much, it's going to happen, right? So let's start to feel a bit more positively about what you're doing, because there will be challenges. There will be times where you go, oh, I can't do this, and you know, I've had friends and family who've been on the same trip, and you know, my sister Jamie, you know, we were on the Everest Base Camp 2018, and after a few days, you know, I'm sure mind me saying, but she was in tears, like, you know, just find it difficult.
Yeah.
But she battled on. You know, and she listened to the guide and she reached Everest Base Camp. Wasn't easy for her, but now we talk about it and she's like, remember those? I can't wait to go back. And, you know, it's a great memory, but she found it hard. But if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you know,
one of the things you always, perhaps one of the things you hear is, oh, it's very crowded at base camp. Well, no, it's all relative. It's not Disneyland. You know, Disneyland is easy. And I'm not, by the way, I love Disneyland. One of the best holidays I had in my entire life. But it's a different type of mindset to go on a trip like Everest Base Camp. And you are right, finding that inner grit. And I can hear a lot of people talking about the charities and things like that. Exactly. Remembering why you started is a big thing, because very few people end up at Everest Base Camp on a whim, having never thought about it before. Yeah. There's usually a drive. That could be a lust for adventure. It could be you know, stories told as a child. It could be that if you're using it as a platform to raise money and awareness for a cause very dear to your heart. All of those things, you know, what we say, train the muscle between the ears. Keeping focus of that really does make a big difference. And yeah, you made a good point there about, you know, the pace and things like that, going slow and enjoying it as well. Actually, I find that, you know, when this is the one thing, when people are really fit and they're really competitive, they do tend to struggle perhaps a little bit more than the people who are less fit as you get higher. Yeah. But one of the things I found really good, and I've learned this from, because I've done quite a lot of treks with sort of either ex-servicemen, ex-army, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. Those guys have usually got the attitude that the strongest hang at the back with the weakest, you know? And I don't want to use, that's true, actually, not necessarily strongest or weakest, but you get my point, right? Which is the slowest members of the group, the ones that are perhaps the least fit, are perhaps the ones that would benefit the most from the strongest guys being around them, having a chat. And it's not like, come on, Anne, let's get you up. It's more just, it's banter. You're having a laugh. It's conversation, you know, and you just help the day go and you have fun. And actually, you know, I've learned a lot from those guys, and they're often great trekkers. And I try and put that message out there as well.
Learn from osmosis, as you call it, Dave.
Yeah.
But look, so obviously a lot of you are on here as well. You know, as we said earlier in the live, you know, we got to announce the winner of the Everest Base Camp trek. But I want to take on all these questions because we got a lot of questions. We'll try and get through them as quick as we can. Yeah. And then what we'll do is then once we sort of tackle the questions, about another 20, 25 minutes. So we'll announce the winner of the Everest Base Camp trip. Yeah. You know, which we've got over to our right here. Don't worry, we're going to keep the camera nice and central.
I know, there it is. So there's the winner there.
That's not accidentally
feels a bit unfair.
I know.
It does. But I'm still very excited to let this person know. I think we might have to try and blast through some of these questions a little quick. So ordinarily, hopefully all of you guys that have tuned in for the first time are going to come back to us as well. And quite often we have a far more relaxed Q&A going on. But I think we might have to go quite quick today because there's quite a lot.
Let's do it then, Dave. Let's do it. So we got a few from. I mean, Rosie started it off because I think it was from earlier on. Again, first one, classic. Jeffrey Caudle. Is there an upper age limit? Is it more of a fitness and one's ability to do the climb? Yeah, as I mentioned before, there's no upper age limit at all. You know, I've seen people in their 60s and 70s who are far more driven, far more fitter than people in their 40s and 50s. It just depends on the individual. You know, if you're out, if you're walking, you know, even if you're not into your kind of trekking and things, but you know, if you were out, say, you get out a couple of times a month and do a 4 to 6 hour trek, you know, it could be the Brecon Beacons, the Lake District, the Peak District. Maybe you're tackling some Munros up in Scotland. You know, we got a lot of customers in the UK. We got a lot of customers around the world, and depends where you are. It's just about getting out, put a pack on your back, doing some miles, getting comfortable with walking. Because when you go into Everest Base Camp, there's no technical experience needed. It's all walking. Yeah. You don't need any crampons or ice axe or ropes, nothing like that at all. It's a well-trodden route from the Sherpas who live up there, and the families and the villages. And you know, there's a lot of donkey trains, yak trains. You know, people carrying stuff. You know, people are living in the Khumbu region, which is where Everest lies.
I've just spotted Marika's on here, by the way, as well.
Marika,
the previous winner.
I was going to say, I've spotted a few. I like how
Marika said I didn't enter this one. That's very kind of you. I'd have entered Marika, it. I would have won. I would have gone for a second one.
It's great to see you on here, Marika, and especially Kate. And I think I saw Paula Reed as well. So we got 3 previous winners of this, which is amazing. So I hope that answers your question, Jeff. You know, Jeffrey, in terms of, you know, age limit, mate. And, you know, if you want to talk about that as well, you know, have a maybe personal conversation. Don't forget, drop us an email as well. info@evertrek.co.uk, and one of the team can look to sort that out for you. If you don't win the competition, of course. There she is. There's Kate.
Yeah, Kate.
Hope life is treating you well, Kate. So we had the pleasure of trekking with Kate back in 2019. She's an absolute legend. Yep. Battled on, didn't you, Kate? You loved it. Reached Everest Base Camp.
Yeah, she smashed it. So Devang Valand has asked, wanted to know about the tea houses, what the facilities are like, what's available. Are there Western style toilets, hot showers? Do you need sleeping bags? So the tea houses are pretty basic. I'm not going to lie. Pretty much everything in the Khumbu region is relatively basic. There is levels to this. There are some more luxurious lodges. We tend to use the same set of lodges pretty much for our trip, and we support those guys. So yeah, they are pretty basic. Don't expect luxury by any stretch.
Still pretty good for where we are, though, aren't we? You know, in terms of, you know,
it's all relative. You know, it's not a hole in the ground.
Well, as you get higher, it certainly gets more basic, right?
But there are Western style toilets as well. There's usually a mix between the long drops and the Western style toilets. But my dad came with me twice, and he refuses to use a long drop. So if you know where to look, they're there. Hot showers. There are, particularly in Namche Bazaar, there's some hot showers. There may be some hot showers in some of the other lodges. Personally, I recommend, probably having one shower, if that, and then bringing wet wipes and bring the wet wipes back down with you afterwards, dispose of them. Only because as you go higher and higher, the higher altitude, the cold, you're not going to find like a travel lodge up there with that type of, heated rail and stuff like that. And yes, you will 100% definitely need a sleeping bag. For those of you that are considering going, we know that the most expensive items are like your down jacket, your down sleeping bag and things like that. If you book onto one of our Nepal trips, you do get free rental of those as well. So the team can outfit you with a down jacket and a sleeping bag that will do for the trip.
Nice. Yeah, it's certainly, we get a lot of questions about facilities, and Dave put it in a nutshell there. It's very basic, but that's all part of the adventure. It is. You've got to remember sometimes where you go, and you go into a remote region of the Himalayas. But it's certainly fun when you're up there, and after a few days, you might have 1 or 2 hot showers on the trip. It depends on the weather, because a lot of the showers are solar heated, and not all the tea houses have them, but you all smell the same in the end. No one smells any different.
The ambient smell in the room never rises above you. It all kind of mixes. But but to be honest, again, it is basic. There aren't luxuries. I generally go on these trips not expecting to shower till I get back. Not back to the UK, back down
say,
from
Dave,
altitude.
please do
Yeah,
it, Kathmandu.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, we got Ryan Hansen. What's the best way to support locals along the EBC route? We've done it. It's basically been tough over the past 2 years. Yeah, mate, Ryan. I can't lie. It's been a very difficult couple of years for Nepal, as it has for a lot of countries that we operate in. Tanzania, another important one for us, as well as a lot of countries. North Africa, South America, but Nepal has had it hard. Because the restrictions are much like the UK. I mean, so for me, there's probably a dozen ways we could all help the locals. Like we've had some customers, like Karen, who's leaving next few days. One of our trekkers going to Everest Base Camp. She wanted to take some stuff for the kids, which was amazing. But to actually support the locals is to just go there, and because we only use local guides, local support. We don't use Western leaders on the mountain, and we that's important to us because then the money goes directly into the local communities. And, by the porters we use, by the guides we use, the assistant guides, by the tea houses we operate in, by the coffee shops we visit, the souvenir shops that are in these little villages.
Yep.
By stopping there and saying hello and using them. That's how you support them. It's just by going back there, because I remember listening to an interview. I think it was Kenton Cool, actually. He just come back from an Everest summit and he got a bit of flack for it. But one thing I sort of heard him, he was chatting to a journalist. And this journalist and him had been out there, and they got quite emotional because they were actually seeing the people, on the ground. They were like, "We're the only," they told him, "You're the only people I've seen today," and it's like 2 PM, which is, and in terms of the business, that's their livelihood. I mean, they're survivors. There's one thing that can be said about, Nepalese. They're blimmin' survivors, but it's been tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a nutshell, because I know we got a lot to go in today, and I probably do a whole live on this, but the best way to go out there, the best way to support them is to go out there, and just to enjoy their company and use their services.
100% agree. 100% agree. Just getting them back in business. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Another question coming in now. So Ryan Hansen on the live, I believe. What's the best? No, you've just answered that one, didn't you? I love going backwards.
I know, mate.
So Rich has asked, what's the risk of getting high altitude sickness when trekking to Everest Base Camp? So there is a risk of getting high altitude sickness. An altitude AMS, as we call it, acute mountain sickness. Whenever you go sort of, approaching sort of 3,000 meters and above, it's where the risk starts to happen. I'll be honest with you, it is very, we know what we're doing. The guides know how to recognize it, and the entire trip has been designed to avoid that possibility of happening. So the whole trip to Everest Base Camp is 11 days. It's 8 days to get to Everest Base Camp, but only 3 to get back. The reason why that is because we gain our altitude very gradually. There are 2 points along the trek where we actually stop and stay there overnight and the next night. In order to acclimatize, we use the climb high, sleep low motto. So we'll stop at a point. The next day we'll go on a high hike, and then we'll come back down, stay the night, and then go up again. And also there's the mountain rules as well when you're trekking at altitude. Trek slowly, drink plenty of water, and basically look after your health by eating and sleeping as much as you can. Guaranteed some of that will be disturbed. You'll lose your altitude, you'll lose your appetite, you'll find it difficult to sleep on certain occasions. But the guides over there won't be monitoring, we'll be checking blood oxygen levels, which is an indication along with lots of other symptoms. I will say that overall, we've probably got a 95% plus rate of people that book onto our trips and successfully get to EBC and back. And that's across all spectrums of people from, Ironman triathletes, all the way down to couch potatoes, who have basically done zero training. It's pretty even across the board. And there is obviously 5% which don't get to EBC, but a lot of that as well can be rolling an ankle. It can be picking up. I mean, probably the most common one I'd say, and is a stomach bug.
It's ironic. We had a customer this week, who had to go down because he had pretty much some dodgy stuff going on in his stomach. Rare. It's because it does happen because you're in part of the world that you can get a Dicky Belly, and that just sucks the life out of you. Whereas it's the altitude sometimes that because we talk about altitude so much, and I kind of think people are educated enough now to manage it. If you've been part of our community for that long, we do sound like a broken record, but it bloody works. But you can't do anything about a dodgy belly. You can't do anything. You can get unlucky. But we hope that whatever happens, you kind of have an awesome time. But with the altitude stuff, we've got a lot of, we did because we've got the Mountain Malarkey podcast, and I think it was like episode 2 or 3. If you go on Spotify or iTunes, just Google, just search Mountain Malarkey. I think there's an episode called "The 5% That Don't Make It." I think it was Doug, your dad, who had been to Everest region twice. Successfully the second time, although it was pretty close.
Well, yeah, he's done basically 1.8 times.
1.8 times.
1.8 times, we say.
But in there, I think he talks about the things he'd learned, in terms of the first time and then the second time.
Yeah.
Highly recommend you watch that, mate. Listen to that. And also check out some of our previous Tuesday tune-ins that are all about altitude. Because sometimes we only talk, like we've done one all about water, about hydration. We've done one literally on pace. We've even done one just about socks. So, we like to narrow it down sometimes what we talk about.
Yeah.
Right, Darren has asked, in terms of spending money, what would you suggest is a decent amount to take with you? So going to Nepal, it completely depends on you. I mean, pretty much, your food and drinks covered, in terms of the basic stuff. But if you want things like, beers, you want to buy some souvenirs, in terms of spending money for stuff, maybe take a couple of £100. I think that'll get you quite far. I mean, there's ATMs in Kathmandu. Also, there's ATMs on some of the mountain villages, none above Namche Bazaar. So Namche Bazaar is pretty much a second day. You do spend 2 nights there up and 1 on the way back. So there's a chance to get some money. But don't always rely on it because, we've had power cuts up there. We've had bad weather and we're not able to get it. And we're like, oh, geez, I want to, we've got to get some tips for the guides and stuff. I want some spending money because I want to go to the Irish bar. You want to make sure you do that on the way down. But you want to go to the Irish bar.
Yep.
So you won't go far wrong with a couple of £100. You can exchange it in Kathmandu, or a lot of people now, they just go out there and they just withdraw the actual Nepalese rupee from the ATM.
That's what I do.
It's the easiest way sometimes.
You pay a little bit more of a charge perhaps than you would on an exchange rate, but you're talking, it's some pounds, not some tens of pounds. Stuart Whitehouse, quite a lot of answer this one. What's your personal highlights and lowlights of the EBC trek?
Yeah.
And what top tips would you have for anyone doing the trip? That's a biggie. That's almost like a whole live in itself, isn't it? Like okay, so the low point, I'll get it out the way, is the outside toilet in Gorakshep.
Yes.
It's a dark place, man. It's a dark place.
Don't go in there.
No, well, I mean,
don't go down there at least.
No, I mean, it's just, it's like Mordor, that place.
Yeah,
the very air you breathe is a poisonous fume. But the highlights, wow. I mean, I could give a kind of wishy-washy answer and say, do you know what?
Just do one. Your top highlight then, just because of time. Go on.
Do you know what? I'm gonna cause dead air because what's yours?
The group. I love trekking with people. I love seeing people when they get to Everest Base Camp and they're emotional, they're crying, all that hard work. In that one moment makes it all worth it. Yeah, that's my highlight.
Me, I think I love the simplicity of what trekking in the Himalayas actually represents.
Yeah,
aside, it's a break from day-to-day life where your only job is to go from A to B.
Yeah, and
they've made it really easy by giving you some of the most beautiful scenery in the world.
Yeah,
so I love it. I remember saying to my friend Billy, who I went with first time round, that when I came back and I put my rucksack on after a couple of weeks, and I was like, "Oh, that feels good," And I never thought I'd say it felt good to put it on, but it just reminded me of what it felt like to kind of do that. So that's probably it for me.
Nice. Minimum age Everest trek. So yeah, if you're under 18, you do have to go with an adult. We have taken people under 18. We've got people who are actually, because what we like to do is say, we don't want to draw a line and say, well, you're not allowed. We've seen people who are, 12 years old out on the Everest Base Camp trip. But they're actually 12-year-olds who are, they're out regularly, they're fit, they're very, I know some 12-year-olds who are just into computers and like to play Call of Duty, which is all good. But then, they're probably not going to make it to Everest Base Camp. So it depends on the age, on the actual, person. I'd say definitely sort of drops a message, if there's, if you've got someone in mind, you've got a kid and you're like, right, they really want to go to Everest. Like we've got Leah, who's come with us. I believe she's 13 or 14. I think Dave Rimington's on the line. He'll be able to clarify.
Leah's Everest, check
Leah's
it out.
Everest, hashtag Leah's Everest. She's raising money for charity. She's an awesome person, and is out all the time. Is taking it seriously, and 100% will get there. She's very determined. So it depends on I say child, teenager, but it depends on the person. But if you want to have a more sort of personal chat, and we can chat with one of the team. We can work out, okay, let's look at a date first, because most people book like a year or two in advance, so you got a bit of time then to get them prepped. But yeah, so
just turned 13.
Just turned 13. Okay, yeah,
I
nice.
ran out of water. Just turned 30.
You run out of breath, mate.
So
why don't you have some of mine?
I just get choked up.
Right, while you're drinking, Nige, I've heard the garlic soup is very good for helping with altitude sickness. Yeah, so the local Sherpas, they do love, and they do have that. Garlic helps with altitude. It helps with a lot of things, doesn't it? High garlic diet helps with keep a lot of things at bay. And yeah, for some reason, it helps with altitude. Even if psychologically it just helps, it helps.
Yeah.
But if you do really suffer with it, some of our guides, they've been trekking and doing this, guiding since the mid 90s. We got people who were on, for instance, Everest expeditions in 1996. Nima, I think, which was one of your guides.
Yeah.
And they're very experienced at managing how you're feeling. There's ways you can do that through, it's not like a switch. It doesn't just do it. They'll spot things that happen to you. You'll be losing your appetite. You might be a bit grouchy. You might not be sleeping very well. You might have a headache. You might be slowing down. You might be just like cowering. There's a lot of signals that's happening, but there's things you can do. Obviously, we can go slow. We can up your hydration levels. We can look at, your actual, oxygen levels as well. But also we use Diamox, so all of our guides carry it. We obviously always recommend speaking to a travel medic or your GP. But our guides do carry it. So if you are really struggling, we've had a lot of customers, I've had family members, friends who have used it before. Absolute game changer.
Yeah,
we've done lives all about Diamox. Highly recommend you watch those.
There's a guide as well that's been written, so I think Fee can post that in.
Nice.
Do you know what I'm wondering, Ant?
Go on.
Should we do it? And then come back to questions?
We can do. Let's have a little look. Let's have a look. Let's do 5 more questions each.
All right, okay. 5 more
Let's
each.
do quick.
I'm just too excited, Ant.
I know you are. I can tell.
Okay, so quick question I've got here from, where is it? Okay, Tommy. Do you think mental strength is as important as physical strength when climbing climbing?
Do your quote.
Yeah, I think that, yes, I think getting to Everest Base Camp is pretty much 90% mental and the rest mental. But also one thing I want to just clarify as well is that when I say mental strength, I don't necessarily mean that someone who perhaps suffers from anxiety can't do it or anything like that. What I mean, it's more about having the mountain mindset, we like to call it, which is, being up for a challenge, rolling with the punches, adapting when things quite don't go your way or things change, because it is adventure travel. Not everything runs on a script. Things do change unexpectedly, and it's being able to say, okay, great. So how do we get past that? How do we get over that challenge? And it's that type of attitude, I think, that is what we talk about when we talk about mountain mindset, being up for the challenge. And I think if you go there worried and anxious and afraid, then when the going gets tough, things can get tough for you then, and no amount of physical strength can overcome that. So I do think it is as important.
But yeah, Nigel Wallace, I've also heard that Diamox makes you pee like a horse. Yes, it does. It is a bit of a kind of, was it diuretic? So yeah, you got to drink more water then to kind of counter that, but it does help. Just from experience, I know there's a lot of opinions out there. Actually, my opinion changed very early on. I used to be very anti-Diamox. Once I actually saw that it was helping hundreds of our Ever trekkers who were taking it and seeing how it completely changes their trip, now I'm all for it. Yeah. I've taken like half a pill in my history of trekking and altitude, so I can't say I've personally used it a lot, but I know family, friends, they've only used it once. Yep. It's an absolute game changer. It really is. But we always, as always, guys, as professional trekking company, do seek medical advice if you want the sort of professional advice on it. Yeah. For medical professional. What tips do you have for altitude training prep? Yeah, because I saw a few questions. I'd like to tackle it. Again, training's a biggie, but literally, as I said earlier, it's not technical. It's just walking. The more training you'll do, you'll have a better time. But like I said earlier, don't think you have to train like a beast. You can. Don't get injured. Tapering it off at least 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks before you go.
Yeah.
But really, you know, we I don't know if you watched the live we did with the Altitude Centre the back end of last year. They're based in London. Highly recommend you watch that live. Fee or Rosie, if you can share that live onto here for everyone, that'd be really useful.
Yep.
Just because it does give you a lot more information. And I don't think you have to go, like, we got a great relationship with the Altitude Centre. Highly recommend. They do personalised training plans. Obviously, you can go to them. They've got like a pressurised training environment there that can help. But from experience, you know, don't think you have to do that to succeed. You can do it and it will help. But actually just listening to your guide, just drinking the right amount of water, you know, going out there, having a good time, doing training before, which the Altitude Centre can help. That's, you know, the tried and tested method works for,
I would say, as
a lot of
well,
our customers.
Pressurized as in there's a chamber that replicates altitude.
Replicates, yeah.
Not a drill master stood next to you going, come on, Andy, get down there, like that type of thing.
Exactly, yeah. It's slightly different.
Michael Casey's asked, how different is acclimatization on Everest Base Camp trek from Kilimanjaro? I would say Everest Base Camp's a more gentle acclimatization process. So when you're acclimatizing on Kilimanjaro, because it is what it is, it's just a mountain. You go from the bottom to the top, and it is epic and awesome. Yeah. But there's not a lot of opportunity for going to one village and coming back down to another one like we do on Everest Base Camp. So I actually found Kilimanjaro to be more of an abrupt acclimatization. We still do Kili the long way, so we still take the longest route to get up there to ensure good acclimatization. But yeah, I would say EBC is more gentle and allows you to acclimatize more gradually than Kilimanjaro. Yeah,
nice, Dave. Nice. Again, I'm sort of speeding on here because I'm conscious we've got about 10, 12 minutes left. Obviously, it won't be long. We'll be doing I know a lot of you keen to find out who's winning, who will win. But right, a couple of questions. Who has one? Gabriella asked about food, meat, things like that. So when you are on the Everest Base Camp trip or any trek at a high altitude in Nepal, because their power isn't always guaranteed, the refrigeration of meat is not always guaranteed. So we always say, you know, it's kind of a vegetarian diet really when you're in the mountains. You know, once you're in Kathmandu's fine. You know, it's fine, but you know, if you're heading to Everest Base Camp, you know, if you do Island Peak, Mera Peak, maybe what some of the high passes, because we have a few different routes to go to Everest. Not just the classic route, the other routes, which is a little bit harder. Or if you go into another region of Nepal, like the Annapurna region, beautiful place. We've got a couple of different routes there. The same goes for all of that. Like essentially, you know, we go veggie. I mean, I'm a meat eater myself, you know, but when I'm on a trek, I go veggie, and it's quite nice actually. I should really maybe try and replicate that in normal life, but I just like meat. But anyway, personal choice, guys. But whatever, when you're on a trek, we highly recommend you go obviously veggie. But then again, we've seen people eat meat at altitude. I mean, some of them, you know, what was it you say we don't want to be the company that told you so. But what a good guy who was with us actually got very Bazatron.
Yeah, well, we advise at the very minimum a vegetarian diet and no alcohol whilst you're going up. When you come back down to Namche, if you want to have a few beers, that's fine. But I also warn you that probably the longest and one of the toughest days is the very last day. Yeah. So letting it all out in Namche and then being hungover on that day would be a mistake. But after the end of the first day, I caught up with him and he was eating a chicken burger that he got in the lodge, and I was like,
I remember that.
And I was like, mate, wow. You know, we're not your parents. You know, you can make your own choices in life. And then let's just say he made it to EBC, but perhaps he left quite a lot of himself along that trail, I think.
Brilliant.
Jishu has asked, flight price to Nepal has exponentially increased in November, December.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because of the Russian-Ukraine crisis? Will it come down, do you feel? To be honest, I'm not sure if it is related to that. Certainly, I mean, that may have an effect. I suppose, you know, planes got to run on fuel and that's going up for everyone. So maybe that might have a knock-on effect. Honestly, I think part of what this is now is that there is, and we talked about it before, a few months ago and even a year ago, about planning now for when you need to go, because there is going to be a rush and there is going to be far more traffic going, which means they've got to run more planes, which means that, you know, sadly prices can go up. Yeah, I think they will go back down again.
Yeah,
generally speaking, if
fluctuations.
you book your trip about a year in advance and you book your flights about a year in advance, you'll get the best possible price. But the prices do fluctuate. I've flown to Kathmandu for 350 quid return, and it's cost me about 1,500 return in other ways.
Yeah.
So, and that was my fault for not being, on it with the flight booking. But yeah, about a year in advance, you should.
Yeah, nice. It's certainly one of those that I think at the moment, the whole industry, I think travel as a whole, not just events travel and not just trekking. I think it's, the airlines are finding their feet at the moment, in terms of fill-in flights, in terms of how many do we need. I think once there's, give it another sort of 6 to 12 months, I think it'll level out a bit more. We'll have a bit more, because the way it used to be, you used to know that, okay, if I book my flight to Nepal, I know that 9 to 10 months before my trip, I'll be able to get it for say 400 or 500 quid. At the moment, it's about 700. It has fluctuated a lot.
That's a good point there. Apparently, there's a football tournament on that might have affected flights to the Middle East.
Footy, yeah, that's very true. Actually, we didn't think about that.
Yeah,
but the obviously there's always things going on that can affect flights, including World Cups, different things like that. So, but there are other ways. Like I remember the first time I went to Nepal, I used Turkish Airlines. I used Air India. There's lots of ways you can get there. I mean, we quite like using Qatar Airlines now, but like I said, Qatar, there is a World Cup due. It will be more expensive. So yeah, do factor that in when you're looking at flights.
Yep.
Or just go 6 months after the World Cup, be a bit cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of questions about insurance on here from a few different people.
Yeah.
So it is a stipulation of the trip that you do have specialized in insurance, not just travel insurance, but insurance that covers you for helicopter evacuation up to around 6,000 meters. Highest altitude you'll reach on an Everest Base Camp trek is 5,550, which is the top of Kalapatar.
Yeah.
There are companies like True Traveler, Campbell Irvin, Big Cat. Those are three that spring to mind that do offer cover for trekking in Nepal. Be specific about what you're doing. You're trekking in Nepal. You go into Everest Base Camp. The highest altitude you need is 6,000 meters.
Nice. Just someone getting a little bonus in there. Thought I'd stop it, but there we are. Always fun. But right, yeah, with the trip then. So I think what was it now? What are we looking at? 123. So I reckon we should announce the winner now. I think we've answered a lot of questions. What we will do, because what I'd like to, I want to go through these and try and answer as much as we can, kind of off the live we can, because I think we've still got another 20 or 30 questions.
We could do an hour more.
What we will do, we'll announce the winner, because we want to get, we realise a lot of people have joined today, and we want to, obviously, if you are the winner, we hope you're on the live. But if you're not, we'll drop an email. We'll send a little Facebook message. We'll get in touch with you anyway. For everyone else, though, if you haven't, obviously, if you're not the winner, because we had almost 12,000 entries this time, which is amazing. So we realised, that the odds obviously a little bit lower than most. But if you've been on one of our kind of competitions before, there are some runner-up prizes that we do like to give out for people as a little bit of a thank you, really, for being part of the journey with us. And being part of an awesome competition. So do check your emails in the next couple of hours.
Yeah.
But right, Dave, I think it's only fair. Shall we do it?
Should we turn
Let you go for it. Yeah. I feel
the winner is David Carpenter. Oh, no, it's not.
All I can see is a mirror.
Yeah, it's a mirror. So I'm gonna try and turn this around in one sort of smooth motion. So are you gonna call out the name?
I can do. Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Sweep it round.
So the winner is.
Let's have a look. It needs mirroring. I will.
So the winner is Niran.
I am literally
switch it
going
over
to video. This is absolutely hilarious. Now I am going to change it over. We have flipped Dave, but there's the winner.
So congratulations, Ryan Cook.
Yeah, well done, Ryan. Well done, mate. Thanks so much for being part of it.
You see, this is technology.
This is amazing. Like that worked. That was seamless, Dave. That was seamless.
Yeah. So well done, Ryan. If you're on the live here, mate, drop a comment in. The guys.
Good drawing,
this was actually a joint.
Was that?
I did the writing, and Fee coloured it in.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So we'll be in touch with you, Ryan, to sort out your prize and find out who you're going to take with
You're
you.
going to take with you.
Because
Yeah,
that's the big decision he's got to make now. Imagine there's going to be quite a lot of friends and family and partners wanting that as well. So yeah, awesome. No. Well done, Ryan, mate. Awesome.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? I can't typical with that mirroring, but it's weird now. People are going to say,
you're on the
wrong way. But no, honestly, Ryan, can't wait to have you on the on one of our trips, mate. As I said, any date that's kind of for yourself up until the end of 2025. But yeah, it's kind of weird now, isn't it, with the other way? But yeah, that's just amazing, isn't it? I'm kind of struggling where to go after that.
I think what happened before for the new people is that we always sit on a certain way.
That's what it is.
And then when we do it this way, it apparently ruins the feng shui.
Oh, here we go. So someone has said, can they change their name to Ryan Cook? Yeah, you can.
They can, yeah. And all they need to do then is enter the second time. But yeah, we've never. There's a rescue helicopter over there.
There is a rescue. Hopefully that's not for Ryan. Hopefully he's all right. But yeah, no, it's great. And thanks, so much everyone for kind of congratulating Ryan as well. It's always difficult because, like you said, we've had almost 12,000 entries, and obviously Ryan, you're gonna have an awesome time. We'll definitely reach out to you, whether you're watching this live, whether you're watching this on a replay, because I know we put this in other places after this. We'll reach out to Ryan and get it. But look, I suppose today, if you've been watching, if this is your first time, like I said, we are here every week. We do like to tackle these kind of questions. Always kind of a different subject, sometimes a different place. We don't always talk about Nepal. We talk about the things. But the reason we set these up is that, we want to make sure that you go out to these places knowing what's in store for you. As we talked about before, there are, these places are inherently dangerous. They are challenging, but we always think that by kind of teaching you or educating you a little bit, that you go out there with a bit more knowledge, and then you enjoy it a lot more. And actually the success rates, like we've seen from the industry, like for instance, Everest Base Camp, industry rates about 65, 70%. Ours is around about 95%. I don't think that's just luck, right? That's because we like to educate you guys.
Well, knowledge dispels fear.
It does.
And when you're unafraid, you can focus in and do some amazing things. And honestly, Ryan, you're gonna love it. Everyone else, sorry you couldn't all win, but hopefully you'll still be on an adventure with us sometime soon, and we'd love to be the ones to take you.
Absolutely.
And I think these things do. The one thing I can always say is that these trips will change your life for the better. Always. Always. I've never known anyone come back from any of these trips, regardless. Even the 5% that don't make it, come back and have learned so much about themselves, so much about the other part of the world that they've been in. Because just by getting on the plane and landing it, luckily, you've won. You've won.
Yeah.
You've reached the Himalayas and you've done something amazing. You're going to see Everest. You're going to meet the local people. Yeah. You're going to experience their culture, learn about their history. And you're going to have an awesome time doing it as well.
Exactly. Great stuff, Dave. It's been awesome. It's nice to be back. Be back next week. Something a little bit different, but we will endeavour to, to get back to all the questions, because you realise we had a lot of questions today.
Well, the good thing is that because we've got them all on recorded, we can
go through them.
We can go through them.
Yeah, we'll come back and we'll make sure you got those questions answered, because, like I said, we want to make sure that you're all happy with with the trip. And as Dave said there, if you're keen to sort of come on a trip with us, do drop us a message. Do check your emails in the next couple of hours. There might be something there that might help with that. But yeah, thanks for coming on today. It's been quite a lot of people on the line. We've seen some awesome numbers today. But I suppose we'll catch you next Tuesday.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice one, Dad.
Take it easy.
Bye.